To tonight's combined. Welcome everybody to tonight's combined Boulder Java users group and Denver Java users group. Tonight's talk will be on Spinnaker. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to go through some announcements first. First of all, thank you all for coming. I'm going to do my usual corny announcements. Housekeeping, if you need the restroom, hopefully you can find one in your house. If you do have speakers that you'd like to recommend, I know, I think the October speaker came in this way, email Matt or myself and let us know the topic and the speaker that you want, or just the topic if you don't have a speaker, and we'll try to book them for the jug. As far as food goes, usually Tech Systems is our sponsor. Tonight is whatever's in your fridge. If you have hiring needs, staffing needs, please reach out to Courtney Elterman, celterman@techsystems.com. Our sponsors appreciate your support, and we're able to give away stuff because you support our sponsors. We also have a JFrog giveaway as well, and there should be, Matt's probably posting this in the chat. There's a link for the giveaway that they're doing, and we appreciate their support. And there should be a QR code for that. I think they're giving away a Nintendo Switch or something, maybe a Nintendo Switch Lite. I'm not sure of the exact gaming system. So we also have Apex Systems. There are what was our beer sponsor, and that's Braden Collip. Tonight's beer is sponsored by whatever's in your fridge. Hope you're enjoying it. Or it could be hard alcohol or just water or soda. Develop Intelligence is another sponsor that we have. We give away a free Pluralsight I think every other month, and it's a really great training website. It's really rich. I know we looked at it at the state of Colorado, and it's very impressive. So Ace, Then One Seal is one of our contacts, and Bob Clary is who you need to reach out to, and his information is on the slide. It's bob@developintelligence.com. They're a technical resource, but they're always looking for instructors who specialize in things like Java, Golang, JavaScript, React, DevOps, tools like Kubernetes and Docker, etc. Amazon is another sponsor, and we appreciate them, and they're hiring full stack and all sorts of different positions. Chris Almond and Sam Ayer are our contacts there. Okta is another sponsor. They sponsor the Meetup site, and also Matt works for them, and he runs the show, if you will, for our meetings, and recording it and doing it so we can all view it online, and we really appreciate that. Looks like that's the JFrog QR code to do that raffle that I mentioned, so be sure and sign up. We also have as a sponsor NextGen. They are a consulting firm. They specialize in like federal government contracts. You can reach them at nextgeninc.com, and they're a staffing agency as well. And that's dana.estlund@nextgeninc.com, and we appreciate their support. Also, Agile Learner, which is Venkat Subramanian's company, and we appreciate their support too. It's a great it's a great website on Agile, and he was putting together a conference that got canceled due to COVID, and I'm sure they'll reschedule in the coming year. So another sponsor that we have that we appreciate is JetBrains. We give away a couple of IDEs every month, and they've been sponsoring us for over a decade, probably close to 20 years. It's really great, and we really appreciate it. We also have the link for door prizes. I think Matt has probably put that in the chat. So go ahead and go to that link to be eligible to win the door prizes. And also take the survey on the talk and let us know, because we do try to grade. We let you grade the speakers, and we actually give an award for the people that did the best job that year. I want to give a big shout out to the board that helps run this for the DJUG side, and that's Matt Rabel, who puts together speakers, the location, which has been virtual for a couple of years now, or for a year and a half. Mike Zuedo, who does the door prizes and sometimes runs the web broadcast for Matt, and Zeddy Chinfang that she does a lot of the operational stuff, including social media and announcements. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to bring up Chris Woina from the Boulder Java Users Group. Remember, we're a combined meeting, and he has some sponsors that he'd like to thank. So go ahead and go for it, Chris.
Sure. So this is Buddy the Rescue Cat. And that's me in the background. Just real quick, big thanks also to Tech Systems and James Corboy. They're America's foremost technical recruiter. They're great to talk to, not even if you're looking for a job or looking for someone, but just they're a good resource just to check in and see what's going on in the industry and what's going on also in Colorado's Front Range. Rule for Cybersecurity and Emerging Technologies. They're last year's Colorado Technology Association Award winner. We've been using them as a meeting place. No Fluff, Just Stuff. Jay Zimmerman, world-class conferences and training. Agile Developer, again. JetBrains, IntelliJ license, and O'Reilly Books. If anybody is interested in a trial Agile developer or trial IntelliJ license, contact me through the Boulder Java Users Group. First come, first serve. Thanks, Greg.
Okay. And again, I'd also like to thank No Fluff Just Stuff, who sponsored Dan's appearance tonight, which is really great. They do really great stuff, and the content is always awesome. So tonight's presentation, Spinnaker and Kubernetes. And as I read you from Dan's description of the talk, I'm going to throw in some comments because I use some of the same technology. There was actually one of the things we'll talk about is there was a thing called CruiseControl a long time ago, and actually I did a book review on some stuff that used it, and it was great. And I remember when some of the other technology that came out and then got supplanted by some other stuff as well. So back in 2005, when an unknown program called Hudson came onto the scene, Dan was pretty excited. Dan had used CruiseControl up to that point and was getting pretty comfortable with the notion of continuous integration. Hudson had terrific graphics and an intuitive UI, unlike CruiseControl with XML-laden directives. Dan thought the future was here. Then some cracks started showing, particularly in the delivery aspect of Hudson. I also think the fact that Oracle did some stuff with Hudson that kind of made some differences too. But maybe it was the predecessor to that. Dan had used a Tomcat plugin, but trying to get a jar, used various deployments, became a juggling act. Then came Docker, and Dan loved it because he got to deploy an image. No more SSHing into a box and messing things up. We had immutability, yay! So now we have Kubernetes, a system that takes immutable containers and monitors them, among other great features. Jenkins still has its place, but is CI, continuous integration. In this presentation, Dan's going to demonstrate Spinnaker, a system developed by Netflix for CD continuous delivery. Dan will demonstrate how to set up, deploy, monitor, rollback, and scale pods with the ease of just selecting an item on a menu. Topics tonight will include discussing artifacts and accounts, administrating with halyard, running a Jenkins job to triggering a Kubernetes job, managing deployments, and baking. So tonight's speaker. So Dan is a programmer, consultant, instructor, speaker, and recent author. With over 20 years of experience, he does work for private, educational, and government institutions. He's also currently a speaker for the No Fluff Just Stuff tour. Dan loves JVM languages like Java, Groovy, and Scala, but also dabbles with non-JVM languages like Haskell, Ruby, Python, Lisp, C, and C++. He's an avid Pomodoro technique practitioner, and that's one of the talks I attended at No Fluff, and it was awesome. And you'll have to ask him about that. It's a really great tool to kind of stay focused, and makes every attempt to learn a new programming language every year. For downtime, he enjoys reading, swimming, Legos, football, and barbecuing. You can find Daniel at DHINOJOSA on Twitter. So without further ado, let me bring up Daniel. Thank you for doing this tonight, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this Dan guy sounds amazing. Like that was quite the intro. And anyway, yeah, also, since you mentioned that, thanks everybody. This is kind of like transparent here. But I did get one of those awards for speakers. So, and I was going to say, yeah, thank you for this award in 2020, but this was 2019. I'm like, what the heck happened to 2020? Like, I just like all disappeared. But yeah, excellent. So again, I haven't talked to you since then, or anyone here at Denver Jug and Boulder Jug. So I'd like to say thank you for that award. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, let's talk about Spinnaker. And Greg did very awesome in talking about already just a lot of what we can use Spinnaker for as a CD. So I have a lot of content, I have a lot of slides, but I'm just gonna let's just talk. I've done this a few times already, so I'm fairly comfortable with it. So we'll be able to show you what Spinnaker is, what Spinnaker does, how we could operate it as CD. Now, Spinnaker has different kinds of cloud providers. It is continuous delivery. It particularly does well with, like, if I want to deploy on AWS, on Azure, on GCP, as raw containers, like let's say AWS has AMI or Amazon Machine Images, that we could deploy those as well. But the aspect that we're going to take a look at here is that we're going to take a look at Kubernetes and how we can deploy items with Kubernetes. We are going to be using Jenkins along with Spinnaker as well. So we'll be talking about that. All right, I'm going to share my screen and away we go. Let's take a look. All right, and share. I'm just gonna share my entire screen here. So this is the layout of Spinnaker. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing some applications. But some of the other things that you'll see here are AWS, some ingresses, Spin. This is showing what is on a Kubernetes. Okay, this is a web-based product. It can integrate with, again, Kubernetes or other various cloud providers. I deploy this with a tool called Halyard. And here, let me come in over here and show a little bit about Halyard. So here's Halyard. It's a tool that the administrator will use on his or her local machine called Halyard. And Halyard has a certain list of commands. And so let me come in over here and let's take a look at some of those commands. Let me close that tab. And I'm going to do a search here for Spinnaker commands. And here's the reference for the different kinds of commands. So again, Halyard is going to be for the administrator. This has a separate set of roles, just like much of like a lot of things that are out today, where you tend to have an administrator section of it that is managing it, and then you tend to have the users that will use this. So Halyard is more of a administrative thing that we use to add certain items. So one of the items is setting up GCS accounts, as we see here, setting up GitHub accounts, setting up GitLab accounts, Helm accounts, Maven accounts, Oracle, S3. So what you see right over here are S3 buckets. So if I want to set up a particular S3 bucket and have connection to it, then I will set up that account. Now, what is an account? Well, let's take a look over here. I'm going to bring up one of these slides here. This is from a full training, so that's why I'm just going to pick and choose certain ones. But sorry about the massive scrolling here. But one of the items that I kind of want to show is what is an account. So here, let's scroll down here because I've got a really nice picture for that one. Let's see. There it is. That's the one I wanted. So as an administrator, I would set up an account. And it's one of the more confusing things when it comes to Spinnaker, because what an account is a account to something outside of Spinnaker that Spinnaker needs to access. The first time I saw this, I read account and I thought, oh, this is an account to access Spinnaker. Wrong. That's not what it is. This is Spinnaker accessing something outside of its space. So Spinnaker accessing GitHub, Spinnaker accessing an S3 bucket, Spinnaker accessing Kubernetes. All those are accounts that I'm trying to access in the outside world. Now, we also have a term called artifact. An artifact is a thing inside of an account. And that thing could be a Docker image. It could be a file that's stored on GitHub. It could be an AMI image. It could be a binary blob on S3 or Google Cloud Storage. So these things are called artifacts. Now, as far as the administrative tasks, I set up accounts. And so I will use these to set up, again, S3 buckets, Datadog, New Relic, Prometheus, to aggregate metrics, SignalFX, code build. So these right here are CI technologies. So Spinnaker, again, is more CD, continuous delivery or deployment, however you want to use it. And it requires a CI, or usually requires a CI, because CI is, a really good tool and it does something particularly well. Spinnaker tries to be the CD and do CD particularly well, but it's not interested in doing CI very well because there's already some great technologies for that. Code build, Concourse, and Jenkins. And Jenkins is still, the top of the mountain. There are many other technologies like Travis and a few others that are trying to take the top spot, but Jenkins is still awesome. Jenkins is still great. They have a lot of plugins, very vast open source community, and you could do just about anything with Jenkins. But as far as Spinnaker goes, it is CD and works with CI. And so what we're going to do in today's presentation is we're going to set up a full CI/CD pipeline and see how all that works and how how we hand things off and how we start the chain of information. Okay. All right. Well, that's what halyard is. And so I will configure items. And let me stop sharing here really quick because I don't want to display too much personal information. Let's show. Give me a second here. I'll show this one. All right, here I go. I'm going to share the screen again. So I just stopped sharing here momentarily. Give me a second. I'm going to clean some stuff up. All right, here we go again. All right, so I'm going to share screen again. And here we go. All right, boom. Nice. All right. So here's an example of what is inside of this halyard configuration file. So when I run these halyard commands on the command line, they change this one file called halconfig. And as you see up here on my Vim, you'll see ~.hal, which is a directory, and config. And here's the configuration. Now, a lot of what goes on here are the accounts. Like, how do I access Jenkins in this example here? And that's what we see here. So my Jenkins is listed here under address 44.230.82.221:8080. I have Spinnaker, and I have the password to access that particular Jenkins. That's an account. And given that, I am able to access that particular account. I have tons of accounts. And one of the other accounts is going to be, let's see if I could do this. Yeah, here it is, without showing too much personal information. But here's another account, Kubernetes. So halyard, one of the things that I do is I set up an account for Kubernetes, and this is pointing to a Kubernetes instance or a Kubernetes cluster. And in order to do this, I am using 2 Kubernetes clusters. But you can create as many different clusters as you want, and Spinnaker would manage them. So Spinnaker is managing an EKS stage. I procured a Kubernetes cluster for the staging, and I procured a Kubernetes cluster for production. You can create different Kubernetes clusters for QA or whatever kind of environment, or for whatever reason you want to create these. Maybe you want an isolated environment with these clusters. Then you can go ahead and do so. And what it's going to be using is it's going to be using my kubeconfig file and get the information on how to connect to these particular clusters. Now, I don't know who my audience is, but for those that don't know, when you use Kubernetes, you use a kubeconfig file as an administrator, and here it is. And so the way that Kubernetes works is that as an administrator or as a user of a Kubernetes cluster, you have this file that defines, one, what the clusters are, or what the servers are, okay? These are going to contain things like whatever the certificate is to connect to that server, and whatever the server is, and the name that's associated with it. So I have my EKS prod and EKS stage, and it's Spinnaker that is getting this information, the EKS prod and EKS stage, and it's taking that from my kubeconfig file. I have one for Docker Desktop, and I have one for GKE in case I have a Kubernetes cluster on Google Cloud. So that's a server connection. And then right over here are the user connections. So what are the user accounts that allows me to connect into these Kubernetes clusters? And here's one, and here's the other, where I have a particular ARN or Amazon resource name that's associated with it. And just like a database that has a junction table, on one side we have the clusters or the servers, the other side we have the users, and then we have this junction table in between that binds them together. And that's called a context. And here's the context. So this context, for example, I am linking EKS prod with this prod token user here. I am linking EKS stage with this token user here, okay? And those are going to be called contexts. So I've created two, but again, you can create as many as you'd like, 2 Kubernetes clusters, and I do have accesses to them. And let me show you my K9S. I'm not sure if you're familiar with K9S. I love K9S. I think K9S is awesome. I like K9S a lot because it's very Vim-like. And so I could take a look at the pod. So everything that I'm doing here is the same or analogous as to using, here, let me do this, as using a kubectl command. So kubectl, let me show the kubectl first, and then I'll show K9S and show you why K9S is super duper awesome. But kubectl, I think, yeah, go ahead. Question?
I gotta jump in here. It's canines, right? Like dogs, not K9S.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Canines.
So my
Interesting. What have I been doing?
Liana, right?
Yeah, I know. What have I been doing in my life? Because the logo has a picture of a dog there. Oh, man. Right.
Right.
I already get deducted points. Well, there goes that one. That's right. Okay, so canines. That makes sense.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So here's kubectl, and I'm going to do a get pods. But first off,
we're not seeing your screen anymore.
Sorry about that.
We lost it.
There we go. Here we go. Here we go. Canines. All right, here we go. All right, there it is. Hopefully you're going to be able to see that screen now. So kubectl, let's see, config, and I'm going to call get context. So this one shows all the different kinds of Kubernetes clusters that I have access to. And it's kind of hard to see here. And sorry, I have to shrink my font a little bit so we can kind of see where this star is lining up to. So this one is saying that any kind of kubectl commands that I'm issuing is going to be directed to that particular Kubernetes cluster. And I could change which one I'm using by going to kubectl use context. And let's say if I want to change to EKS prod, then I could do so. And so now any kind of kubectl command, let me increase the font again, any kind of kubectl command that I am issuing is going to be directed to that particular Kubernetes cluster. And so this one here, I'm going to take a look at all the pods that are running. And here are the pods, okay? So Canines, thanks, Matt, is that I'm able to issue a bunch of kubectl commands without issuing a bunch of kubectl commands. So if I am, right now I'm in stage right now, but if I want to take a look at all the pods, I just do :pods. If I want to take a look at all the services that are deployed, I could do that. If I want to take a look at all the ingresses that are deployed, I could just do :ingress, and on. Whatever kind of object that I want to look at, I could do so. And I could describe things. So let's say I want to describe this. Here, let me hit escape. Let me say I want to describe this ingress here. I can click usually on, let me try one more time. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll choose something else. Okay, I can't describe ingresses, I guess. Here, let me choose a service instead. And let's say I want to describe, I guess describe's not going to be working today. Describe? Okay. Nothing like a demo that's not going to be working. But typically, I should be able to do a describe and take a look at more information about this. Now, so that's canines. And again, I'm able to take a look at different services. I'm able to take a look at the logs. So all that looks pretty nice. And one of the things I want to then describe here is that Spinnaker is actually a set of Kubernetes microservices, and here they are: Spin Cloud Driver, Deck, Echo, Front 50, Gate, Igor, Kayenta, and each one does a certain job. So Cloud Driver is actually the main engine that does the builds. Deck is going to be the UI. Echo, I think, is a pub/sub service behind the scenes. Orca is an orchestrator. Redis is Redis. This one does baking. Kayenta does Canary. And Igor, I forgot what Igor does, but it does it really well. Oh, Igor is the one that connects to continuous integration. That's what it is. So each one of these has a certain job to do. And together, each one of these microservices makes up Spinnaker. Okay. So I had set up Spinnaker, and here it is. And you can interact with it via UI or via command line. You can create pipeline templates, so that way you can kind of have a configuration as code. But I'm going to show you the UI aspect for this. Okay. But we have search, so we could search for items. I can create projects. A project is a container of multiple applications. Applications is going to be the center of our experience. This application is typically going to be a one-to-one relationship with a particular microservice that you are deploying and that you are managing. Okay. And I also have a Jenkins that's ready to go. So Spinnaker, and let's add a password to this. Okay, which I don't remember. There we go. There's the dashboard here. All right, so I already have a couple in here. Let me clear up some of these other ones in here, because I was doing a training and I have some others in here. I don't want them to get triggered in any way, so I'll just go ahead and clean that up. Anyway, I have a Jenkins job that's already running. So let's show you that. And if you have any questions, please ask Matt, and we can answer the questions, I think, during, right, Matt? Is that okay? Are there questions now?
No, but we can ask them if they're posted, certainly, right, as people ask them.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so here's Jenkins. And then next, let me do this. I'm going to go to GitHub, Hinojosa, and Spinnaker study. And this is my application. Okay, so here it is. And so this is an application that I'm going to deploy. I am a contrarian, so this is not a Spring Boot application. This is a Quarkus application. And whatever technology works, as long as it's able to display some web pages on a port, then we are good to go. Anyway, so here it is. This is a Quarkus-based application. And how we create this application is done through this Jenkins file. Remember, I want to go through CD first, and here it is. It looks kind of messy here. Here, let me take a look here. Maybe I can load it up also on And I'll let this one cook and open up on my IntelliJ, because my Jenkins file looks a lot better here. So let's take a look. Yeah, here we go. That looks a lot better. So my Jenkins file is this. Checkout from version control. Next, build a project. So I'm going to be using Maven to create a package. Now this one over here, please kind of ignore. This one's used for a cloud environment like AWS. I'd have to create a Debian file in order to do that. But here's the important one. I'm going to build the Docker container. So I have a Docker file that I'm going to be using to create this particular image. This one I'm creating a tar file, but that's for an AWS deployment. Oh no, you know what? Sorry. This one I'm going to use for Helm. So that's going to be important. If I have time, I would love to show you how Helm works with Spinnaker. So that's creating the chart. I'm going to take that chart and push that to S3. That's the S3 bucket. This one we could ignore for this particular presentation, but this one sends a Debian file to Nexus, so I could use it. But on this one here, this one's going to create a properties file. And what this properties file is going to have is it's going to have information that I can use to hand over to Spinnaker. And then finally over here, what I'm going to do is that Docker image that I created with Jenkins, I'm going to push that over to ECR. And if I make a change from my CI, then this will trigger Jenkins. Jenkins will do the build, create the Docker image, and then push that over to ECR. If you're not familiar with ECR, that is Amazon's container registry. Okay, much like JFrog, who is a sponsor, and much like Nexus. These are just repositories where we are going to be storing these particular Docker images. Okay, so it's still the same Jenkins that you know and love. And here's the repository that I'm listening to. And let me just show here the configuration that I am using for this. Here we go. Or not. Maybe. Please. All right, there we go. Hey, where is that? Get over here. All right. So here's the configuration. I am polling. I'm doing a cheap way of going about it. I'm polling every minute. But on here, what I'm doing is I'm going to this repository, the one that I'm showing you. And what I'm doing is I'm telling it, run this Jenkins file. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a build now. I already had a couple of successful builds, but I'm just going to run that again. And so we get to see everything working here. So we all have, again, the checkout. I am building the project. Here we go. So this part's Maven. And hopefully everything works. Okay, there it is. Next, I'm going to build the container. Building the container is going to build a Docker image, tar-gz, pushed to an S3 bucket, and now I'm pushing to ECR. And maybe, come on, give me good news. Give me good news. I think that's good news. Are you done? Let's go, Jenkins. There we go. Beautiful. There it is. Now, let's take a look at over on ECR. And here we go. Let me come in. I have it here under Safari. And let me do a refresh of this page. So this is ECR. So this is an Amazon-based container registry. You could use whatever you want. You could use JFrog. You could use Nexus, whatever you want. I just happen to choose ECR. And here it is. Here's the name of my microservice. This is in line with the name of my Jenkins project, Mild Temper Microservice. And if I click on here, the things that I will see is that here it is. Here's image tag number 10. And that's what was built. Okay. All right. So that's the CI side. I get everything I need there. Also, I have testing and integration testing as well. That's what CI does. That's what CI does particularly well. Okay. So awesome. All right. So I think this was a Spinnaker presentation. So let's talk about Spinnaker, because I want that to do the CD side of life. So I'm going to come in over here into applications, and I want to get started with Spinnaker. Now, I've already configured all the accounts. So all the accounts are set up. It has access to Kubernetes, it has access to Jenkins, it has access to my S3 buckets, and I already set that up using Halyard, which is the administrative tool, and I'm going to click on Create Application. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one that's called Mild Temper Microservice, and I get a lot of junk here, and the reason I get a lot of junk here is I'm going to skip over here to cloud providers. Take a look here. I've configured this for AWS and Kubernetes. This is multi-cloud. And that's one of the best things about this, because as a CD deployment tool, is that I can deploy to AWS using AMI images. I call it AWS raw, or I could deploy to Kubernetes, or both. Now, if I wanted to add configurations for Azure or GCP, I could add that as well. But I'm just going to choose Kubernetes because that's the title of this talk. I'll include my user email. The repo that I'm getting this from is a GitHub account. There it is. Here's the project. So I'll do github.com, Hinojosa, Spinnaker -study. Beautiful. The repo name, I'll just call it something human readable. And Matt and Greg, hi. Okay. All right. So whatever kind of description I want. All right. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now, there were some other items in here like instance health, what port you want to do, and what kind of pipeline behavior you wish to use. Okay. So let's talk about a couple of items. What do we do? Well, there are different ways that you can go about this. Now, on here I have infrastructure. On the left-hand side, you'll see clusters, load balancers, and firewalls. Now, one of the things that you can do is that you can create a server group ad hoc, meaning that I wish to create something. Maybe there's something that I need to set up. And let me show you an example of that. I'm going to click on Create Server Group. And one of the things that I need to do is I need to create one thing I forgot is I need to create a Kubernetes namespace for where I'm going to be deploying to, because I'm going to be deploying to a namespace called microservices. So let me go ahead and do that. And I forgot how to create a namespace. Good job, Dan. All right, so Kubernetes namespace, there it is. That's the one I usually use. So Kubernetes is, for the most part, declarative. You have a YAML file that declares whatever it is that you wish to create. So let me go ahead and bring that up, maybe. All right, here we are. And that's what I want. Okay, so before I deploy, now I'm going to use this opportunity to show you how you can create initial infrastructure. Here, let me hit cancel again, on how to create initial infrastructure on Spinnaker. And I can click on this Create Server Group. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to go here to Stage. And what I want to do is I want to create a namespace called microservices, because that's what I'm deploying to. But this one is development. Take a look at this. Spinnaker has this nice little utility. I'm going to do a Command F. So I can do a full search and replace here. And here's microservices. Beautiful. And I'll replace all. Close out of it. There we go. So this should create a namespace. Now let me go to canines. I miss calling it K9S. Anyway, so let me show all the namespaces. So right now, I don't see any namespaces called microservices at this particular moment. So I am going to go here inside of Spinnaker and I'm going to hit create. And here we are. So what you're looking at here are tasks. So every action that I create is made up of multiple tasks. And you'll see that here. Resolve, deploy, manifest, promote outputs, clean up artifacts, etc. And I'm going to go ahead and hit close. So that created a namespace, and I'm going to verify over here. And there it is. That was just created 19 seconds ago. I'm going to create another one because I'll need one for production as well. Oh, shoot, I should have copied that. Bear with me here. Development. and microservices. All right, beautiful. There it is, and I'll hit all. All right, there it is. And I'll create that under production. Remember, I have 2 clusters, staging and production, and setting up those namespaces, and away we go. Now, as far as this utility goes, there's tasks over here on the left-hand side. So this shows everything that was done, who the user was, what the running time is, started, ended, and you'll see right here that I deployed a manifest on EKS stage and one on EKS production. Okay? Fantastic. I'm excited. All right. So I created namespaces. I needed those. But if I wanted to create deployments, if I wanted to create replica sets, if I wanted to create all these different kinds of items, then I can do so. Now, some of these items, again, our audience is varying. Some have not used Kubernetes quite that often or as much, or maybe you're a beginner, or maybe you've never used Kubernetes before. Let me go up to one of these images in here in my slide. Let's see, deployment. Yeah, here they are. I have some a list of resources, and so this is the one that I wanted to show you. Except I'd like for you to do me a favor. Where it says node port, think of ingress. So we have services and we have pods. A pod is going to be the basic currency within Kubernetes. And a pod will have one-to-many images that are running in it. And so that's what a pod is. Now, a pod will usually have a one-to-one correspondence to that main image, the reason for its existence. So like, for example, let me come over here to canines, and let me go to pods, and let me show you an example here. Like you'll see some of these in here, like 3 out of 3, 1 out of 1, 2 out of 2. And what that means is that if I don't know why describe doesn't work today, but if well, at least I'm able to enter in here. Cloud driver, so this image called US Docker package dev, Spinnaker community Docker, that is the main image for that pod that we are running. So every pod has that main image. But you could also have some ancillary images that are running, like this monitoring daemon and token refresh. And these are sidecars, or things that assist the main image. And all these can be housed within the same pod. And that's why we have a pod instead of just rolling out a single image. Okay? And then we have a service, which is a load balancer. So if we hit the service, what this service is going to do is it's going to select one of the pods. And one of the other cool things about a service is this. I'll go to SVC, and this shows a service. Notice the column in the middle here that says cluster IP. I have 10.194.176, 10.130.16, blah, 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 blah. What are these IPs? These just happen to be IP addresses internal to your Kubernetes cluster. Your Kubernetes cluster is this mini internet that exists, and you control it all. And you get a power trip out of it. And also, take a look at the left-hand side with name. And again, this is your own mini internet when you have a Kubernetes cluster, and you have a DNS included in it. So I could actually, internal to the Kubernetes cluster, I could go into HTTPS Spin Cloud Driver. I could go into HTTPS Front 50 and all these particular services. That's what a service is. And it load balances across different pods. And then what I'm going to show you is, again, mentally replace this node port service with the term ingress. And ingress is going to be welcoming traffic from the outside world, the outside internet. And ingress is going to map a particular path and a particular host over to a particular service. Now, here's my analogy for Kubernetes, and it's sushi. So the pods are the sushi chefs, right? When you fill out that paper for sushi, what generally happens, right? That paper gets shared across multiple sushi chefs, right? And so each pod is going to create the roll of your choice, right? So pod 1 is making me a rainbow roll, delicious. Maybe pod 2 is creating a caterpillar roll. Maybe 3 is a lobster roll, or pod 4, I don't know, but I'm getting hungry. But each sushi chef is creating a roll for me, and I'm really hungry, so I need 4 rolls. And so that's going to be distributed across. So I'm going to hand that paper over to the wait staff, and I consider the service here the wait staff. And that's going to load balance my order across 4 different sushi chefs. And at the end, they will deliver my sushi to me, and that's what the service is. So the service to me is both the wait staff and the tables where I'm eating, or maybe the sushi bar where I'm eating. The ingress that's welcoming in traffic from the outside world is the host or hostess that is welcoming everybody from the outside world into the sushi bar. Oh, how many? 3? Oh, right this way, please. Right? And that's what the host or hostess is. Now, there's one that I don't have here on the image, but it's called a deployment. And a deployment is the boss. Okay, it's the boss of how things get rolled out. And one of the things that a deployment will do is make sure that I have enough sushi chefs for rush hour, because people are going to come in hungry, and I need to make sure that I have 4 sushi chefs. And if one of them's sick, I need to call another sushi chef. And that's what a deployment will do, is we'll ensure that we'll have the correct number of resources, and we'll use something called a reconciliation loop to make sure that everything, the counts are where they need to be. Okay? That's what they are. And that's what I'm going to deploy from my application. So load balancers is going to show the ingresses, it's going to show the services, and firewalls. I'm not going to have one here, but this one is using what's called a network policy with Kubernetes, and that will show a different ingress and an egress. Network policy is for things like, let's say I'm going to deploy a database, but I wish to deploy a network policy to guarantee that only this particular service with this particular IP address and this particular CIDR rule can access my particular database. Okay, so very cool. This will be filled up here very shortly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure a brand new pipeline, and I'm going to do 2 staging. And I'm going to create that pipeline, and here it is. So here's a pipeline, very much like a Jenkins pipeline. Some of the differences, though, is that I will have a configuration stage. Configuration stage will start off, I can process a trigger. I can have parameters. So if I want to parameterize my pipeline by having some certain inputs that roll with it, then I can do that. Pin parameters just means they will be exposed. And I could set up notifications. Everybody loves notifications and being interrupted at their work. So let's have Spinnaker do that as well. So, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so you could have this notify you on Slack, on email, or whatever. Okay, so I want to get started here. So I'm going to set up an automated trigger. And what I want to do is I want to use a Docker registry, and here it is. So this just happens to be one of the triggers that I'm going to use. I'm going to say my ECR registry and mild temper microservice, and there it is. And this is just going to point to this for my ECR, that there's this image here that I would like to bring in, and I'm going to go ahead and save changes. All right, beautiful. So that's my configuration. So the moment that there's going to be a new image that's deployed is when this is going to trigger. Then next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new stage here. And let's do the following. Let's say that I want to deploy a manifest. And here it is. Now, for this one, I want to deploy to stage. And I want to deploy a artifact. Whoa, what is this? All right. So artifacts tend to be one of the hardest things to understand when it comes to Spinnaker. Okay. Let me go back to my slide deck over here. Sorry about the massive scrolling. Let me go to where we talk about artifacts. So this is the pipeline. I'm just showing you a demo that shows all this. Main cloud providers, good. Accounts, deploying microservice. So here's the diagram of what we're going to be doing. So get to Jenkins, create a Docker image. Spinnaker is going to be alerted, and then I'm going to deploy to Kubernetes. So we created the application. Again, sorry about the massive scrolling here. I want to get to this good part here, wherever that good part is. Pipeline, stages, manually running. Yes. All right. Yeah, there it is. Found it. Okay. Artifact frustration. Grr. All right. This is the thing that's going to drive you nuts because you may end up with something like this: unmatched expected artifact. In the end, what is an artifact? It's an address to a thing that is contained within an account, and that's what an artifact is. But with added information, so things like name, version, location, and every Spinnaker artifact follows this particular specification. What it really is just this. It's a thing. You're pointing to a thing in the outside world from Spinnaker. So in this example here, this one is a GCS object. And what I'm doing here is I'm pointing to Google Cloud Storage as a protocol. What bucket am I looking at? What file is it? And what version is it? The reference is actually the URI. The rest of the information here are just descriptor fields that describes what is in this reference. This is a MIME type. This is a name that's associated with it. This is a version, and this is a location. And so why? Well, kind of like humans, right? I'll use Matt Rabel as an example. So there are a lot of Matts in this world. Hey, have you met Matt? I don't know, what? Which Matt? Matt Rabel. Oh, Matt Rabel. Yeah, great guy. So you're giving me a little bit more context. Now, globally, there's probably tons of Matt Rabels as well. But what's my context here? Java champion, programmer, Okta. The things that define who Matt Rabel is. That gives me a lot more information. That's what this artifact is for. It is, I'm pointing to one thing, but if I wish to describe this one thing a little bit more and give it some more definition, then I can add those elements if I need to. Okay? And that's what an artifact is. And again, it points to a thing outside of Spinnaker. Well, let's get this rolling. Let me save changes here. So I'm saving the changes to the pipeline. I'm going to come over here to configuration. And what I want to do is I want to set up some artifact constraints. I want to define that, hey, I am looking for some artifacts. This right here is a display name. I'll usually post something silly, but I want to post this. I'm going to post this to the Docker image on ECR. Okay, so I want to define that. And right in here, I'm going to point to Docker registry, and this has a particular Docker image that it's looking for. I'm going to cheat and use this. I teach a class on this, and so I already have everything ready to go. And here it is. So this one is 219, which is the address of where my Docker image is located. There it is. So 219, and the name of there it is, mild temper microservice. So that's going to represent the Docker image ECR. So I'm going to go ahead and save that artifact. Next artifact, I'm going to create one more. So define a new one. And not Chili Rabbit, but this one is going to be a manifest. So I need a manifest to deploy this to Kubernetes. And so I'm going to call this one my GitHub manifest. And there'll be a YAML file that I'm using. So I'm going to go here to mild temper GitHub. Ooh, where did it get this? This mild temper GitHub. Well, where we got this was from Halyard. So as an administrator, I configure GitHub. And one of the things that I'm doing here is, I'm probably going to delete this, so it's okay if you see this. One of the things that I'm doing is I created a personal access token on GitHub. And GitHub, just like a lot of other things, keep this in mind, is that a lot of these services will have a front-facing human interaction UI website. But they will also have an API-based website, and that's for machines and computers and robots and terminators, okay? That's how they access the resources on the back end. And in order to do that, I would need a token. So I take this token and I add this to Halyard when I deploy this. And that's the reason why when we see this over here, I'm able to see mild temper GitHub, because it's going to use that token to interact with the information on the back end. Now, the file path then is I'm going to take this over here. And so I'm going to bring that in. Let me come in over here and let's add this one in here. There it is. So what is this URL? So let's test it out. I'm going to come in here and look to see if I'm able to access it. And here it is. This is going to point to a YAML file that is going to be used to deploy my services. Okay. Now, what is that pointing to? Well, let's come in over here and let's see what that is pointing to. It's going to be pointing to this manifest folder and this YAML file, which will describe the service that I am deploying, where that is located. So this will have a deployment. Remember, the deployment is the Sushi Boss. Sushi Boss says I need 3 replicas. Sushi Boss says that all sushi people must abide by this, has this particular name, and has this particular image that I'm going to pull from ECR. Service, remember the service is the sushi bar. So this one is, I wish to expose this as a name called mild temper service microservice, and has a web, oh, let me increase that font, has a TCP. It will have 302 as the port, but the target ports on the pods are going to access port 8080. And then I will have this ingress. So ingress uses an ingress controller, so that way I can route to my web application. All right, beautiful. So what do I want to do? I want to roll this out. And this is the file that I wish to roll out. And remember, this is stored in a location outside of Spinnaker. And so what I want to do is I want to say, here's where it is. Here's where that file is. Go look for it. And that's what I'm doing over here. And notice the URL.
Hey, Dan,
yo, go.
we have a question
Do
from Jody Myers.
Jody, go for it.
And they asked, should I think of an artifact as something like an external file or something like a Java class or something else?
You could. I don't know if as far as deployments or operations you would use a Java class, but I mean it's the right thought. It's a thing. It's a file. It wouldn't be necessarily a Java class, but it would be something else like that. So a YAML file, a tar.gz file that's on an S3 bucket. Those are the kind of things that you would be referring to. Okay.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right. So, and in this case, we are using this YAML file as that thing, as that artifact. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, not yet. And in fact, nope. I should have posted that somewhere else. So this is just something that we have to do for a YAML file. I needed to take this URL and post it in here. But this one as an identifier, I just need to do this manifest deploy microservice. Sorry, I put that in the wrong place. So this one is called a use default artifact. And this one is, in case you don't find this particular artifact, here's the hard-coded location where you can find that. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save Artifact, and there we go. I'll save changes, and there we go. And then on the Deploy Manifest stage now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the artifact. Remember, that comes from GitHub. I'm going to select the Docker image ECR. That will bind that Docker image to that manifest, and I'll click on Save Changes. All right. I think I'm ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a start manual execution. Notice that this is going to be deployed to EKS stage. And here we go. I'm going to choose tag number 10 and run it. Let's see how this works. Let's see if I get it right. So this is a manual build. Fingers crossed. And bingo, there it is, success. All right, now I'm going to go to clusters, and ooh, beautiful, it's blank. Now, in a few seconds, it's going to show something, but if I'm not patient, one of the things that I could do is I can click on this little window over here. This is I call it a soft refresh. And I could click on that, and I'm able to see my deployments here. Okay, so what's the use of Spinnaker? Or what is one of the uses of Spinnaker? And that is, I can manage to a certain extent, not fully manage, but I can view and somewhat manage some of these resources without having access to kubectl or kubectl. Okay? So if I have access to the Spinnaker website, I can click on any one of these, and so this shows the pod that's running. I can take a look at the console. So here's the Quarkus application that's running. I can click on this green here. This is a different pod. So I could see what pod is running here. What pod is running here. There it is. This right here, I'm going to click on this V001. This is a replica set. So this rollout is V001, and that's the replica set. And I can click on the deployment as well, and that represents the deployment that I just made. Pretty cool, right? And so that's the pipeline here. And let's take a look to see if this shows up. So I created a web URL for this. And I think this one's going to be called under mild temper. And there it is. Yay. Okay. So this is the Quarkus application that was rolled out from the very beginning from the version control. Then we go over to Jenkins, and then we go over to Spinnaker. And Spinnaker is the one that is in charge of rolling that out. Cool. What do you think? All right. Oops, sorry. All right, so next what I want to do, let's come in over here. I'm going to do another one. So I am going to, oh, by the way, this right here, I went to a URL called staging tiered planet, which is a DNS that I registered.net, and here's mild temper. Mild temper is just the name that was part of the ingress. So if you remember, I have this ingress in here. And so this path here says, if you want mild temper, which is the name of my project, then that's going to go to this service name. Remember, the service name is the sushi bar. And here it is. And this service is going to be tied to anything that has these labels like demo and app, which is going to go to this. And this defines the pods that are being run. Again, the full sushi bar experience. Yay. All right. But this is great. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a configure on this. Let me add another stage here. And what I want to do is I want to do a manual judgment, which is an approval. Because what I want to do is, I'm not going to do that here, but let's say I want to run some Selenium tests. I want to run some acceptance tests. I want to run tests that would need to, hit this staging environment and try to detect any flaws that are happening. And so I'm going to provide a gate here, and I want to do instructions here. Please approve or disapprove, whatever it is that you want. Okay, and there it is. All right. And then what I want to do, so I'll have that. I'm going to click back here to executions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another pipeline. And this will be called toProd. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. All right, so here's the configuration. This time my automatic or automated trigger, I want to trigger this from another pipeline, and here it is. The application is not here. So let me save changes, and I'm going to do a hard refresh of this page because it didn't show up, and that's fine. Sometimes you have to hard refresh this. Let's try it again. Application, there's mine right there. Didn't see that before. And so when the two-staging pipeline is done and it is successful, what I want to do is I want to define an artifact here. And what I want to do is maybe I want to use the same stuff. So let's say GitHub manifest YAML. And for this one, I'm going to use, and so take a look at this. This time I'm going to use this actually as a match. So I'm going to say, if this has been defined already, use the same exact one, this GitHub. And I'll explain a little bit more on that one. And on this one, I want to use the Rotten Cobra 85. Hell yeah. All right, so let's change the name on this one. We'll call this one Docker, not Docker Manifest, Docker Image on ECR. Okay. And so I'm going to leave this one blank because this ends up a match. So we'll take a look at that. I then am going to add a stage here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy my manifest. Here it is. And I'm going to go into production. So this time what I want to do is I want to deploy into production. Here's the manifest and here's the artifact that I wish to deploy. So what you're seeing in this presentation, and maybe I'm overselling it, or maybe I'm underselling it, we get to see a full CI/CD pipeline in one presentation. I hope that works. And everything ready to go. So here we go. Let me just do a from the very beginning. So here it is. So here's the manual start. This will deploy onto staging. And again, think about some of the things that you could do here. We deploy to staging. Run your tests. Run your Selenium tests. Again, run maybe some security tests. Maybe run some smoke tests. Do whatever you'd like. And whenever you're ready, you can do an approval here. And so you could say, yeah, I don't know. Staging doesn't look like the way we want to. So I'm going to put a stop to it, and we're not going to continue further. Or I could say, ooh, I like. This is the kind of thing we want that represents our company. And I'm going to hit continue. And here we go. So hopefully this works. So there it is. And so that should kick off prod. And away we go. Let's take a look. And hopefully this gets deployed over to production. And there it is. There's my production environment. Now let me go to clusters. And there it is. So I have a production environment and I have a staging environment. And that means that I can go right over here. Here's staging. And I'm going to go into prod. And here's prod. Prod tieredplanet.net. And what is it? Mild temper is the name of my microservice. And it's not there. Okay. Wait, is it prod or is it something else? Prod tieredplanet.net. Well, what is it over here? Oh. Yeah, interesting. Now it's, oh, there it is. I was like, hey, where is it? Okay, there it is. Got a little nervous there. So here it is here. It looks kind of different, doesn't it? I wonder if, oh, there it is. There's 100%. I'm like, what's going on? These should look the same. All right, so there we go. So production environment is running. Staging environment is running. Now, let's have fun and let's watch the whole thing happen here. So I'm going to go over to my GitHub. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Spinnaker. And this is where my microservice is located. I'm going to go to source, main, resources, meta-inf resources, and let's have fun with this index HTML in here. And I'm going to edit this. So here we go. Let's see. So this would be V2 of this particular application. And let's say the background color, I'm going to change that from purple to orange. Okay. Give it a Denver Bronco look and feel. Right. Football's about to start, so let's go and do that. All right. So updated.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. So update to orange. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but don't hold that against me when you talk about this presentation to others. Yeah, everything was great, but then he just talked about Dallas Cowboys, and that just kind of ruined it for me. Anyway, so updated to orange because Matt likes the Broncos. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and commit these changes. Here we go. All right, so I went ahead and committed these changes. Let's watch the whole thing. So I'm going to wait here. Oh boy, that didn't waste any time, did it? And here it is. So Jenkins is now building based on that one particular change. So all automated. So here we go. Check out, build the project. build a container, write some properties, which we can use as the Jenkins trigger, and then push the ECR. Boom. All right, now let's go over here. That's CI, and let's go over here to the pipelines. And here's your CD. Maybe. So the trigger now is once an image hits the Docker registry, whatever Docker registry you want to use. Again, that could be JFrog, that could be Nexus. I'm using a Amazon-based container registry. So let's take a look here. There it is. It's like, it took quite a while there. But notice here that the trigger this time is the Docker registry, and we are deploying now onto Kubernetes, onto the staging environment. And here's this one. So do I wish to approve? Well, again, some of the things that you may want to do before an approval, again, is do some testing or Selenium tests and things like that, and make sure you get a full report about whether you want to continue on or not. And I'm going to say yes, let's go ahead and continue on, and then that will go into production. Darn it, one of the things I should have done here, let me just do it here really quick. Staging should be orange, and I don't think this is rolled out yet. Oh, darn it. I didn't catch it in time. What I should have done is held off on that approval. And what you would have saw, is the one of them was going to be purple and the other one is going to be orange. So, but yeah, there's the full CI/CD pipeline. Okay, and everything tied together. And there we go. Now, on this side here, oh, look at this. We kind of see things in a transition here. And notice we have a V1 and a V2. You know what? Let me do it again. And let's say that I'm going to edit this. And I'll do it again. And the reason I do it is so that way I could have a fuller history for this. So let's say I want to change that one to green. Change it to green for no particular reason. I'll go ahead and commit those changes. All right, there it is. All right, so that should trigger. Oh, there it is. Boy, this doesn't waste time at all. So this one is rolling out. This is build number 12. And again, this will start to create everything, create a Docker image. And we will deploy. Matt, how much time do I have left? Just out of curiosity.
You got all night. I'm going to be here until about 11, maybe midnight. So
all right, sounds good. I got a class in India, so I'll have to leave for that at least, but that's at 9:30. All right, so here it is. So we deployed that, and hopefully I don't make the same mistake this time. So let's take a look at the pipeline. So again, a new Docker image will be coming in. The Docker image will be 12 coming in. I had created these Docker images based on the Jenkins deployment. So let's take a look and see what happens here. So this should trigger. I hope. Yeah, this one takes a little bit of time, I notice. Usually this is the faster one. The Jenkins one takes, some time, takes within a minute. We're all looking here, bated breath. All right, there it is. Oh, and here it is. So 12 is the one that's being deployed. And while we're doing that, we could take a look here at the artifacts that we are using. Okay, perfect. So let's come in here. This is the staging environment. That's green. And then let's come in over here. This is the production environment, and that's still orange. Okay, good. Okay, so we roll this out. I'm the manager, so I'm going to take a look in here. I said, oh, I like that kind of green here. Let's go with it. And so we will send that over and deploy that into production. So fantastic. So we roll that out, and everything's beautiful. And let's take a look here. We have our deployments. We have a history. Look at that. These replica sets here. So we have a V003 that represents that replica set. V002, V001 are the replica sets. Let's take a look at load balancers. So ingresses are a load balance. It takes internet traffic and distributes that over to a service. But my services also one as well. And again, I can click on items in here, take a look at the information that's available. So I don't have firewalls, so that one's blank. But I could take a look at what's been deployed. Now, let's have some fun. I'm going to highlight deployment. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to do the following. I would like to undo a rollout. You know what? I don't like that green. And I think Matt really likes the orange. Matt's the boss. Matt says, I don't like the Packers. I like the Broncos. What are you doing? Roll that back. All right. So I think the orange one
Jay
was...
likes the Packers, right? So that's where you're going with that?
Yeah, I guess he's sponsoring it. All right, don't tell him. Anyway, so we're going back to orange. And so we'll do an undo rollout. There it is. And I'm going to go to v002, which is the previous version. So before I do, notice what's going to happen. v002 is going to be the new v004, and v002 is going to cease to exist. Let's do that. So I'm going to do an undo rollout, an ad hoc undo rollout, and I'm going to go to the previous version, and I'm going to do a submit. And this is on production. So I'm making a change in production. Beautiful. Done. All right. So we're going to let the task do what it needs to do. And let's take a look here. And what I want to do, or want us to take a look at, is v002 should disappear. And then we should end up with a v004. Let me do a soft refresh. There it is. So v004 was the older one. And you can kind of tell right here on the tag of the rollout. So here's 11 and 12. So if I go to the production environment, and here's prod, and I do a refresh here, it's still orange. Yep. So we have our orange. It did turn green, but we rolled it back to orange. Okay. So I'm talking to the Denver user group, and people love the Broncos. Okay. And so here's staging, but we changed it on production. But let me come in over here. And so, Matt tells everyone, hey, we were at the Java user group, and it was great. And we learned about Spinnaker, and they were like, the website's up, and it seemed pretty easy to bring up. Go check it out. And then it became really popular. And so what we need to do is increase the number of pods because this application got really popular. So I'm going to go over here to deployment, and I'm going to do a scale on this. And so what do I like to do? Well, let's add 7 more pods to this, okay? Matt keeps talking about the Broncos. All right. That's the reason we're doing this. Oh, here we go. Matt keeps talking about the Broncos. We'll do a submit on this, and let's take a look at see what happens. Ooh, take a look here on the right-hand side. We're transitioning already, and here we go. All right, so these pods are running. We have 3 pods that are running our application, but we need some more. Let me do a soft refresh here, and there it is. So we scaled up. Pretty cool. So I can manage things without having access to kubectl. I have a UI in order to do that. And let's do the following. So we did a scale. We did an undo rollout. But let's say something got stuck for some reason, and we want to do a rolling restart. So same pod, same rollout. We just want a rolling restart. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Something weird is happening. I just need to do a restart. Okay, there we go. And I'll go ahead and do a confirm here. Beautiful, there it is. And let's take a look here. So we have v004, that has 10 pods. And again, I could take a look in here and see what's in there, what the logs say. Oh, that's because that's not going to exist here pretty soon. Because we're going to get another set of pods, and here it is. We get to see this in transition. It was v004. Here are the new ones because we did a rolling restart. Notice that this is v005 as the replica set, and this has version 11. This is v004, and that too has a version 11. It's the same version that we rolled out. We just did a rolling restart. And if I refresh again, these reds should disappear because we were transitioning and we wanted to shut those down. And here we have our rolling restart. Fantastic. And in our production then, we should be able to see, hey, we're still orange, okay? Go Broncos. I feel dirty saying that, but I might as well do it. All right. Are there any questions there, Matt? Or from you or Greg or from the audience?
Yes, we do have one.
All right.
Do we have any time limitation on approvals? Usually we don't go to prod or pre-prod immediately.
Yeah, so one of the things that you can do is you could do something like this, and you can do parallel pipelines. So that's a great question. There's a wait in here. So you can do it like this to where you have number of seconds, which is, I don't know, whatever 30 times 60 is, or some sort of time. And so you could place a wait in here that it can also be tied to this new stage. So one of the things that we could do is we can craft it, and there's usually a way that we can go about it. So here's this pipeline here. So one of the things is we can trigger a pipeline from here, and we could say like trigger to prod, and we could change the stage name. So we could say to prod, for example, and then tie this prod. So in other words, prod depends on the manual judgment and as well as the wait. So kind of see how this looks here. So that's the way we could do it. And I think manual judgment also has, you could fail it. I'm not sure you want to fail it. That's going to be up to you. If you want to fail it, if no one else approves it, you could fail that pipeline and you just have to try again. Actually, that's not a bad idea. So you could do that. Or you could do a wait where either one of these will win. Either you do the manual judgment or you wait. But the downside for that is you go through production in case somebody does not approve that. That may not be a good thing for you. It depends. Okay. Depends how confident you are in your product and your pipelines. Maybe you're close to getting things fully automated. That maybe this sort of thing is not going to be that much of a big deal. So depends on your depends how good you got at automating everything. I'll remove that stage and I'll remove that one. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right. Let's show a Spinnaker expression language to show what else we can do with this. And let's take a look. So one of the things I want to do, and in fact, I should have just kept that. Let's say that I want to do that kind of undo rollout that I did before, where I'm going to go to staging, and let's choose microservices. And the kind here, let's do a deployment. And here's the service. And let's say I want to go one revision back. And here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. But I want to do this on a condition. I don't want to just do an undo rollout just because I want to. I want a certain condition to be met. And then next what I'm going to do is I'm going to do pipeline. So this time what I want to do is I want to trigger the pipeline from the staging environment. I don't want to be triggered on production. So I'm going to change things there. So pipeline should depend on, let me change that, should depend on the manual judgment. And here it is. So I have an either or situation that's happening here with this undo rollout. Okay. So let me call this one stage name rollback deployment. So I can, rename things as I need to. And here it is. And stage, namespace, microservices. There we go. And I'm going to go one back. And let's see. Here's this one. Oh, the pipeline to prod. There we go. Save that one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here. And I'm going to go over here to the prod, configure this one. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to go here to configuration. And I'm going to remove this trigger. And I shouldn't have done that. Let me do a revert on it. I wanted to, here's what I needed to click. There it is. So I wanted to keep the rest here. And I'm going to go ahead and save changes. So in other words, I don't want this to be the trigger. I still need these artifact constraints. So that's why I did what I did, because I need to still define what it is that I'm deploying. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. There we go. So the actual act of deploying the production pipeline is all the power. I move the power over here. And you decide, you're the one that, inevitably is going to be creating these pipelines. So you could do whatever it is you'd like. All right, so here we go. So this one is based on this manual judgment. If I do a input here of approve, and if I do a disapprove here, what do I want to happen? And here it is. So if I approve, then I should trigger the production pipeline. If I disapprove, then I want to roll back that staging, because that I want to say that doesn't exist. Okay. Ooh, this would be a lot of fun. We'll see if we can get this one to work. All right. And but what I want to do is I want to click on this right here, condition on expression. And this right here will use a expression which is based on Spring expression language. And what you could do is you can take a look at a stage. So what I could do is I could say stage and just say manual judgment. So given that, oh, by the way, everybody, one thing that I really, really learned from Spinnaker is that judgment in American English only has one E. So get it right, people. It's the British that use the extra E, which is kind of weird because I tend to avoid English spellings for just about everything. I spell center the right way. I don't think the British know anything about English. Anyway, so C-E-N-T-E-R. That's the way we do it. Theater. It's not R-E, it's E-R. That's the way I go about it. Like I always avoid like English spellings. Color. C-O-L-O-R. I don't put an U in it. That's too much work. Why would I do that? Anyway, but for years I've been doing judgment with like 2 E's. I was wondering where I picked that up, but it's mostly a British thing. How about everyone here? Matt, Greg, what's your judgment like? What's your judgment on this? Anyway, tell me while I set this up. And so here it is. Here's the manual judgment. And so what I'm going to do is do this stage. You know what? I'm going to cheat here. Let me make sure I get it right. So I'm going to go over here, use the expression language. So here it is. This one's doing a delete, but I'm going to do something else a little bit different. Here it is. So I either have one that is, so this one will go to the stage manual judgment. That's the name of it. Here it is. Here's the name, manual judgment. And I want to get the results of this based on our approval. And here's the rollback and here's the pipeline. Okay, so we will roll back if, and here I'll go ahead and paste that in. Nope. I thought I copied this. All right, here we go. Maybe we will. There we go. So there it is. So if the user clicks disapprove, then I'm going to roll back the deployment. Okay, done. But if they approve, so here's a condition on expression, but if they approve, and I think I spelled it with approve, then we will use that branch. So I'm going to have 2 branches here. So I'll do the configuration, the deployment, then the manual judgment. So decide what to do with that judgment. And then I'll either roll back. So we saw what rollback does. Rollbacks, so here's version 5. And version 5 right now has orange. And so if I roll back, that would be an orange. So we'll see what happens when we do a disapprove. That should roll everything back. But if it's approved, then we should carry on forward. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So let's do another color. We'll do red. Okay. Changing to red. And I will go ahead and commit this. Let me make sure I got everything in place. So I have these pipelines. This is going to be a little bit fuller and more automated. This will roll back if I disapprove. But if I approve, then that will go into production. All right, let's give it a try. Commit changes. Beautiful. And here we go. All right, well, let's together stare at my Jenkins and see how this rolls
I got a
out.
question for you in the meantime.
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Chris Allman here. Does Spinnaker support auto scaling, or do we configure that within our container provider?
Yes, you can. And so there is a stage on here where you can scale as well. And so you could use a Spinnaker expression language to determine, determine whatever it is that you need on whether you want to scale or not. So it's a separate stage. So a lot of these things you could do either ad hoc, like go to your clusters tab or your load balancers tab and do things, at the moment's notice, or you can make that a part of your pipeline to where, you make a decision based on something. So you have both options. And the stage is called scale. So you can do a scale based on it. And you could scale based on previous cluster size. I suspect you can tap into things like, memory saturation and CPU and stuff like that as well. So here we go. And here's the Jenkins rollout. Build a project. I think Jenkins is on UTC. Yeah, I guess so. I was like, it's not 1 a.m. Ooh, the build project took 1 minute. That's kind of weird, but it looks like it's going through it. All right. Odd. There we go. Okay, so we'll take a look over here, and let's see how this looks. All right, so we have a little bit more, a little bit more to staging now, and then here's my approval. And if I did it right, so here, let me hover over this. Oops, hover. What are you doing, Spinnaker? There we go. Please approve or disapprove. And so I will do a... So you know what? Before I do an approve, let's take a look at what the pages look like. So staging has already been done, and this should be in red. It is. Okay, good. Now let's come in over here. And I'm going to say disapprove. That red is horrible. Makes me look like I committed an error. So I'm going to do a continue. Let's see, do I want to do a continue? Yeah, I think I want to do a continue. Stop would, in this case, I think the stop would do a failure. So I'm going to do a disapprove. I don't know why that's taking so long, but there's the disapprove. And one of these, I don't know what's the deal here. There we go. So this one's rolling back the deployment. Ooh, this is going to be good. And so this is going to do the rollback. And let's see what we have here. I think that already did it. Let's see. That one's taking quite a while, more than I thought it would. But it should get, there we go. And we're not triggering production. So here's where it was once red, and I rolled back automatically, and now we're back to green. Beautiful. Okay. And if I change it again, and I'll bring it back to purple, where it was once. Here it is. Setting it back to the original color. Beautiful. And we're going to commit those changes. And here we go. So now this time I would just roll back that. I would approve that, and then that would go into production. So while we're waiting for this, let me just show you some of the other stages that are available. So yes, you have a lot of things that we can choose here. AWS, so AWS code build, which is their CI. I can bake, I can do a canary analysis. Here's this one here called check preconditions. Check preconditions is kind of like a gate. Before you proceed further, you could check on a cluster size, on whatever's been deployed. You could use an expression. You could do a stage status and just treat that like a gate before you proceed further. And that one's called a check preconditions. That's a great stage. Let's see some other types in here. Concourse, which is a CI. You could delete a manifest, which would just totally delete a deployment. You could do a disable or an enable manifest. This is called a rollout strategy. So what you could do is, I forgot what the term is here, where you roll out some pods and then you roll out some, you have some of the old ones. Netflix does this all the time, where it rolls out, like, you keep the old version, but you roll out some parts of the new version. And some people try some of the new version, some people try the old version and see, how the performance is, and they don't even know it. And then once you gain some more confidence, then you'll enable the manifest and disable the old one. So that way you very incrementally do a rollout. So if you want that much control, then you have an enable and disable manifest. So that way you could do that. You could apply tags to a resource, evaluate variables. You could do a cloud build. You could get artifacts from another execution. So this would be, I want to steal the image and the tag that was used for this deployment because I want to do something with it. You could run chaos experiments, run a Jenkins job. Ooh, this is great. So one of the things I could do is I can deploy to staging and then use Jenkins to run another job against that. So let's say my Selenium tests are a Jenkins job. So what I could do is I could roll out to staging before that approval and run the Selenium tests, and the Selenium tests are running on Jenkins. I could patch a manifest, run a pipeline, do a manual judgment, run a job. It happens to be one of my favorite ones. If you don't see a stage here, create one. So Kubernetes has this notion of a job, and a job can be done for things like populating a database with initial stuff or even creating tables. A job could be Terraform. So you can use a job to use Terraform to create infrastructure. If you've got an image that you could base things off of, then you can run a job in Kubernetes. Save pipelines, and here's the scale. So the scale's here. So based on a condition, you can run a scale, and here's that condition on whether you want to run that stage or not. You will just select what it is. So let's say microservices, the kind. And so you have lots of different things that you can choose from as Kubernetes objects. And where are you, deployment? There it is. So you could choose something static, or you could choose a target. So I could say, go to this cluster in here. And on the newest one, I want to increase the number of replicas. And I think this is just a text field. Yeah. So you could use an expression in here. So you could determine, how many are available now, or you can, decide how many replicas do you want to do. And you could automate that as you need to. Okay. So you have a lot of stages to work with. And again, if you don't find any, make a Kubernetes job out of it. All right. So here it is. Let's see. I think I did a disapprove. Let's see what it looks like right now. So this is on my staging environment. Here we go. It's back to purple. And I'm going to approve that. So I will select approve, continue. And there it is. Now this has just triggered this pipeline. And now I should be able to go into prod. And we should be done. And there it is. All right, fantastic. Let's take a look at prod. All right, and there it is. It matches the color. Cool. Any questions?
I thought your last change was you made it red.
I did, but I disapproved it. And then I made a change and I changed it back to purple. And I disapproved it, so that never went into production. And by disapproving it, I rolled back staging. So it just got erased from staging. Like it never happened.
Nice.
Yep. And so one of the things that, and I'm glad you brought that up, is that when you do this, like let's take a look over here. Let's say 12 was absolutely horrible, and that should never be a candidate. Wait, let me come back over here. Here's 12 right over here. and 12 should never be a candidate. And it's still in the history. So here's the replica set history here. If I want to remove that, I'll go to the replica set here and I'll remove it from here. I'll do a grace period in case it needs to of 20 seconds. But the reason here is this replica set, and a replica set represents the history of our rollout. But this replica set was absolutely horrible. And I don't know what we were thinking, right? So whatever that is, I don't know what we were thinking.
That's when you use the Cowboys colors.
Man, you invite me here as a guest and you say, no, I'm just kidding. That's right. What we weren't thinking. All right, there we go. What? I don't know. Was this the blue one? I don't know. I don't know which color this one was, but here we go. Maybe it is, right? Don't talk about the Cowboys in the House of Denver. I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
So we have a question here from Jim Fox.
Jim.
He's asking about the expression language and if it uses wildcards, or if it allows wildcards.
I think so. In the end, this is just I guess I need a little bit more information about wildcards. Oh, so you know what? Let me talk more about it then, and I think I'll be able to answer the question. Pardon me while I scroll. So perhaps yes, maybe. You could do a lot of things with an expression. Wherever you have a text field, you can plug in an expression, and you just do a $ bracket, and that would get replaced. So I think yes, you could do a wildcard. You could put if statements in here. You could do whatever it is you'd like. So like if expression A is hello and expression B is world, then this would be hello random string world. But you can use them anywhere. Minus
and you said it's all
configuration.
Spring expression language?
Yep. And yeah, you could do a bunch of great things with it. So let's try this one. And I'll need some Java help here. So let's say disapprove or approve. Please look at http://staging .tiered planet. Or here, let's do this. Let's have fun here. ahref http tiered-planet.net, and then / here. This one's going to be interesting. So let's say I want to get the application. Let's see. So what we have, and here's, let me show you what I'm talking about here. Sometimes you can get some help for this. And we also have like some variables that we can use. So you could program just whatever it is you need. And it's not application, it's execution. So let's say what I want to do is I want to say execution. There we go. And I want to do this mild temper. But what I want to do is I want to do a substring on this. So execution application, here it is again. Execution application is going to say mild temper microservice, but I want to truncate that to just say mild temper because that's the way the ingress is done. So execution, application, there it is. And let's say for this one, I want to do a substring where I want 0, and the last one is going to be execution application. Let me expand this here. Where I want to do execution application and last index of, the dash. I think we could do that here. Last index of the dash. So that ought to, I think, truncate it. Help me out with your eyes and your brains and make sure I'm matching up the brackets and the parentheses. And let's see. Do I need another paren here?
I think you need a +1 after the last index of usually, but
yeah. Let's see. So this is the ahref, and I'll close that and staging website. Matt, what was the target call that when you click on that link, it opens up a different page?
Oh,
What's
like
that one?
target equals underscore blank.
Is it that? Okay, yeah. We'll do that. Let's see if that works. All right. I think I have it. Maybe takes takes maybe a few attempts here. So I'm going to go to HTTPS. I do have a certificate on this. HTTPS stagingtierplanet.net, and then I'm doing this substring here where I'm using the application as a value, doing the last index of. So that way I'm just doing the initial substring, target blank, staging website. Please look at the staging website and see if it meets your approval. And here, I'm going to do this for you, Matt. Go Broncos.
Nice.
There we go. All right. That's right. All right. So let's come back over here and let's go ahead and run it. So tag. Yep. Go ahead.
Jim asked about like regular expressions, and I just put something in the chat for.
Yeah, so the regular expressions,
right?
I think, ought to work as well. So if you need to match something,
Yeah.
again, this is going to be the Spring expression language. So you have all the amenities. In fact, I have it bookmarked here. You have all the amenities of this Spring expression language. So you have relational operators, assignment, calling constructors, arrays, lists, variables, collection selection, and number 3 right over here, regular expressions. Although I haven't done it myself, but since this is all based on a Spinnaker expression language, you should be able to do whatever it is you need. Now, coming back over here, that execution that you saw, this is a reserved variable, and I am able to get, as you saw there, get a lot of information and create a expression based on that. And I could also reference trigger. These are 2 reserved variables, and trigger has information about who triggered me, or like not who triggered me, who triggered this pipeline is what I was trying to say. Yep. All right. Let's see if I got close to this.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Here, let me hover over this and staging. Ooh, look at this. And if the target blank, if Matt told me some truths, then by me clicking on this should open up a different tab. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Nice. And here it is. So, so whoever's approving this can go over to the staging website, take a look to see what it is. And I'm going to say, yes, I approve, and go ahead and continue that. And there we go. Now we're deploying over to production. So yes, you could do a lot. Within Spinnaker, we call it spell. It's Spring expression language, but it's also Spinnaker expression language. So we tend to call it a spell.
Nice, and we actually support it on Okta in various fields as well. So it's become like one of the de facto kind of things.
Cool. So it should be natural for you as well. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. How much fun is that?
That was awesome.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I got a question for you.
Sure, do it.
All right. I pinged you like a couple months ago and was like, hey, how about doing something like this for JHipster, right? Like setting up like Spinnaker for a JHipster app, because I took an app or a set of microservices, right, that I generated with JHipster, and I put them up on Kubernetes. But then, I thought to myself, because people always ask, like, for CI, should you actually be doing and testing it in containers, right? Instead of like, it has the ability to run it all in Docker, right? But if your production's Kubernetes, like, should you actually deploy in Kubernetes and test it there, or does it really matter?
I think everyone has various opinions on it. Like unit testing, integration testing, to me, that's on the CI side. Like, do you need a container for it? Maybe. Like, I'm really into testing containers for databases. So, for DAO objects. That's a good question. Would I want to do that? See, I think I probably still would want to do that CI side if your continuous integration is able to do Docker stuff like that. I would consider that more CI level. But the deployment for things like, your Selenium tests, your security tests, your load tests, and all these other various tests, that should be deployed to something. So for that one, I do consider that one CD, that all those kind of testing should be, of course, be deployed first, and then we could trigger those tests afterwards.
Right. So
that's my opinion, and that opinion could change. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, but you were using Jenkins, right, to do the CI, and then using Spinnaker for the CD.
Yep.
Right, and so
Correct.
that seems to be a common pattern. I was actually, when I first heard of Spinnaker, I thought it could do it all. Right, it could do CI and CD, but that's like you're trying to make it do too much, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's meant for CD, but it's like one of those technologies that you could probably push it to do CI, because that's kind of what Tecton does. Google's Tecton is, I think, both CI, CD, and it's all Kubernetes containers. Different philosophy behind that. Is it overkill? I don't know. To like Kubernetes everything, or are you applying just too much Kubernetes?
It is. It totally is. But
yep.
if it sells the cloud
right.
subscriptions, then
that's right. Yep. Don't tell James Ward. That's right.
Is it okay to drop your screen here, or did you want to?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Yeah. If there aren't any other questions, yeah.
I'll bring Greg on. He looks pretty comfortable, so we gotta get him involved.
Oh yeah, wake him up.
See if he has any questions for you.
I'm looking. My screen's over here where I'm following you. So,
right.
But my camera's here. Thank you, Daniel. That was really cool. I appreciate it. I don't know if I could replicate all that, but it was neat, and I wrote down all the tool sets that you use, so I can try to do stuff later.
Right on. Very cool.
I totally love the on the fly. Like, not only did you have a demo that worked, which is always impressive, but then you were like willing to try other things, and that all worked too. So
yeah, like when I go to the doctor's office, they were like, "Why is your blood pressure so high?" I'm like, "I do live demos," and they were like, "Oh, okay." That's right. Yeah, and especially for something like this. This one, I've done it a few times, so I had the confidence to like run this demo. But like a Kubernetes demo with both a CI/CD pipeline, whew, man, sometimes there's a voice in the back of my brain just like, I don't know, you're taking on quite a bit of a challenge here, but yeah, that's great.
I was today years old when I learned how to spell judgment correctly. And
really, right? Were you one of those Americans that was like you put two E's like I did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, how did you spell judgment?
With incorrectly, but
yeah. Two E's, yeah.
CENTER, so I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Chris, how do you spell judgment? Two E's or one E, Chris?
I believe what?
For judgment? Does judgment have two E's or one E?
I thought two, but maybe not.
Yeah, see, right? That's a British thing. So, yeah, some Americans do it. I think it's an accepted form, but we should just be only using one E.
Yeah, my father went to London School of Economics, so I'm kind of straddling the fence.
Okay.
On spelling. Hey, listen, do you want to say a few words about UberConf coming up?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So UberConf.
the 8th?
Yeah, I forgot what the date is.
So it's October 5th through the 8th.
Yeah, October 5th through the 8th. We're going with UberConf. And we're going to try to do it in a very responsible way. So I don't know what the final things are going to be. I don't think speakers are going to be having masks, but I think we're going to be distance, and all the speakers I think are going to be vaccinated and stuff like that. So we're going to try to make this as safe as possible, so that way you could attend. But I think it's hybrid mode if I remember what Jay said. So if you're interested, if you still want to go remote, then you could do so. And I think they're going to be setting up cameras that you'll be able to see a live presentation. But if you want to go, if you miss seeing people, if you miss talking to people, if you miss having a beer with people, then this will actually be a live event. And so what were the dates again? October
5th through the 8th.
5th through the 8th. Yep. I'll be talking about this topic. I'll be talking about Kubernetes security. I'll be talking about type level cats with Scala, and I got a few other things as well. Machine learning pipelines and some other good stuff. So
Sure.
That's what I'll be talking about. But a lot of great speakers as well, and always great content. And so if you're looking to get back into going to conferences, it's a great conference to get started with.
Big.
And it does have actually.
Cool stuff. Go ahead.
On the website now, it does say vaccination required if you're going to be in person.
Okay. Yeah. We were talking about that. I don't know, like the decision he was going to go with. So it looks like that's going to be the case. So attendees should be vaccinated as well.
Yeah, there's a few different options for getting like a digital vaccination card. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to be speaking there, but I'm not as prolific and well known as you, so I get like the Friday afternoon spots as usual, but it should still be fun.
I have that too. And like for some reason Jay schedules me like that. Like I have a day off there in Denver, just like not doing anything. I guess that's nice because you're able to prepare for that that next day. The technologies that Jay is iffy about, I always find that sometimes he may schedule those late on Friday, so and see how well it goes, and then for the next rounds he'll be like, "Wow, that was really popular. Let's go ahead and add those on there." So my type level cats, for example, is like last or late Friday night, but that's the one I'm most excited about. So there's a method to the madness, I think.
I try to have a policy that if I have a talk on a Friday afternoon, I somehow get some beers in there. And so maybe I'll come to yours on Friday night and we could do some sort of sponsorship thing there.
Yeah, there we go.
I learned don't go through the hotel, right? Because then it's like $500 for 50 beers. So
I know that's right for 50. That's right. Yep, that's right. Go to the store really quick and pick something up. Yep.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. That was an awesome presentation, and we'll conclude this and see y'all next month.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks again. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.